Hello everyone, this is M Decoded. I am Johnny, the Simpson case. I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's called the most complex murder trial in American history, also known as the most classic judicial case in human history. Its massive scale and far-reaching influence are rare in the world. Thus, it is known as the trial of the century. It changed the American criminal justice system. It elevated forensics to an absolute height. It also further clarified the importance the American judicial system places on due process and solid evidence, which far exceeds the pursuit of truth and convicting the killer. Of course, this case is also full of controversy. Even today, many Americans are still discussing these cases. So what exactly happened in this world-famous case? Let's travel back to Los Angeles in the 1990s. Let's re-examine the details of the case. The lead, Simpson, whose full name is Orenthal James, was born on July 17, 1947, in San Francisco. His parents had 4 children in total. He was the third child. It is worth noting that he is a black man. This point is crucial in this case. We know the status of black people in the U.S. used to be quite low. They were once called slaves. Although the situation has improved today, there are still many who look down on them. The Simpson family, because of their skin color, was naturally unwelcome. They lived in the slums. Life was very hard. There was almost no security in the slums. Everything was a mess. Children fighting and chasing in the street was the norm. Parents were used to it. Moreover, as parents, it wasn't easy to raise a large family. How could they have the energy to manage the children? So, children like Simpson in the slums were basically left to their own devices. Frequent playing allowed Simpson to develop a pair of good legs in his childhood. After all, the strategy of running if you can't win works everywhere. In junior high, by virtue of running fast, Simpson made achievements in football. Playing ball in school was fine. It was just about getting cheers from classmates. But the appearance of one person changed Simpson's fate. This person was Willie Mays. He was with the San Francisco Giants at the time. He met Simpson and painted a beautiful blueprint for an athlete's future. Simpson was deeply moved. He began to think seriously about his future path. He also trained very hard. Later, he went to City College of San Francisco. He performed even better in football games. Naturally, he became a star of the school's football team. This led many universities to extend olive branches to him. Ultimately, Simpson chose the University of Southern California, which is USC, and received an athletic scholarship. In 1967 and 1968, he served as a running back at the school. He performed exceptionally well. In 1967, Simpson set an American record at the time with 1,543 yards rushing and 13 touchdowns. He created a new record. In 1968, Simpson set another record with 383 rushing attempts, totaling 1,880 yards. He also won the Heisman Trophy. He was a rising star then. His posters were everywhere. It was also in this year that Simpson, still a student, married his middle school sweetheart Margaret Whitley. In 1969, Simpson officially entered professional football. For the first 3 years of his professional career, his performance was mediocre. But in the following years, he was like a new man. He set several records. He led the NFL in rushing 4 times. In 1973, he became the first person in a single season to rush for over 2,000 yards. He also won the NFL Player of the Year award. In 1977, Simpson was called one of the greatest running backs in American football history, but no one expected his career to come to a sudden halt at its peak. Due to injury, he chose to retire in 1979. After retirement, Simpson lived a colorful life with his celebrity status. He took on many advertising endorsements. He started a film company and made movies. He worked as a sports commentator on TV. He served as a spokesman for Hertz and so on. He made a fortune. In his personal life, even before he retired, Simpson was frequently dating 18-year-old nightclub waitress Nicole Brown. They dated often. He and his wife divorced in 1979, which was the year he retired. In 1985, Simpson was inducted into the Football Hall of Fame. That same year he married Nicole. Their marriage didn't last either. Over the years, the two were always in conflict, filled with a great deal of domestic violence. In 1992, they filed for divorce. On October 15th of that year, both parties signed the divorce agreement. In the following 2 years, Simpson and Nicole remained in contact. They tried to reconcile several times, but ultimately there was no result. On June 12, 1994 at 11:35 p.m., it was usually quiet outside at this time. But today was different, and Akita was barking wildly outside. A passerby walking outside found the dog. From the expensive collar around its neck, he knew the dog must have an owner. It was just lost. He didn't know how to settle the dog. Then his neighbor, Shukru Bastip, came over and said he could take the dog back to his apartment first. After the Akita arrived at Shukru's house, it appeared very nervous, kept trying to run. Shukru thought the dog must want to go home, so he tied a leash to the dog, and he followed behind. Soon, the dog stopped at 875 South Bundy Drive, in front of the apartment entrance. Shukru decided to take a closer look. It was an unforgettable sight. A woman was lying on the ground, covered in blood. Bloodstains were even all over the walkway. A terrified Shukru called the police. It was now past midnight. At 0:13 on June 13th, Robert Risk, patrolling nearby, arrived at the scene. He walked carefully toward the house. He saw a woman face down, lying at the bottom of the steps leading to the door. There were bloodstains everywhere. Beside her was the body of a young and fit man. His head was against the iron fence. Robert realized he had encountered a brutal murder case. Just as he was about to use the radio to call for backup, he suddenly saw a photo hanging on the wall. He was all too familiar with this photo. It was the famous Simpson. To prevent information leakage, Robert decided to use the phone to contact his direct superior, David Rossi. David knew this wouldn't be easy to handle, so he contacted his own boss. They also called the LAPD command center. 28-year-old Ron Phillips, who was at the LAPD West LA station at the time, was the head of the Homicide Investigation Department. Lang was in charge of the case. The moment he got the call, he called Detective Mark Furman. The two immediately rushed to the scene to investigate. Then Phillips, Furman, and Patrol Officer Risk surveyed the scene. The female victim was Simpson's ex-wife, Nicole. She was face down, lying at the bottom of the stairs leading to the door. She had multiple stab wounds to her head and neck. Her carotid artery was completely severed. Although the walkway to the stairs was covered in blood, Nicole's bare feet were clean, without a single trace of blood. There were also almost no defensive wounds on her hands. The other victim was Ronald Goldman, 25 years old. He was a waiter at a nearby Italian restaurant. He was also stabbed multiple times in the body and neck. The fatal wound was to his neck. There were defensive wounds on his hands, but not many. Ronald and Nicole had been close lately. That evening, Nicole had dinner at the restaurant with her family. Her mother accidentally left her glasses case at the restaurant, so Nicole called Ronald for help. Upon hearing this, Ronald clocked out immediately and delivered the glasses case after work. He didn't expect this delivery would cost him his life. Police did find the returned glasses case in the house. Additionally, there was a knit ski hat next to Ronald, a white envelope, pager, and a torn piece of paper. Most importantly, there was also an Eris left-hand glove. It was covered in blood. There was also quite a bit of blood in the house, along with stained footprints passing through the back door. Judging by the distance between the footprints, the killer didn't run away in long strides. When fleeing the scene, they looked more like footprints from a casual stroll. There was also some blood on the left. Tests showed the blood didn't belong to the victims. It likely belonged to the killer. Police believed the killer's left hand was injured during the act. They believed the killer came specifically for Nicole, since Nicole had almost no defensive wounds on her hands and no blood on her soles. It's clear the process was very swift. After the killer efficiently finished off Nicole, he encountered Ronald, who came to deliver the glasses case. The killer was seen unexpectedly. He didn't hesitate much and chose to silence the witness. Because Ronald was young and strong, there was a struggle with the killer. Ultimately, he was overpowered and murdered. No property was missing from the home, and there were no signs of forced entry. Meanwhile, Nicole's 2 children were sleeping peacefully upstairs, without being harmed in any way. Police speculated that the killer wasn't after money, and didn't seem to hate the family. Seemed more like he knew Nicole, and had some bad blood, so he only acted against her. Ronald was just purely unlucky, happening to deliver something, and seeing the killer, which was why he was silenced. Up to this point, the case suddenly took a turn. LAPD West LA Station was no longer in charge of the case. They handed the clues over to the incoming investigation team. At 4 in the morning, Senior Detective Philip Venator arrived at the scene. He had worked for the LAPD for 25 years, and was a very experienced officer. Venator decided to notify Simpson first, but didn't know where he lived. But another detective at the scene, Mark Furman, knew, because he had handled Simpson's domestic disputes before. Note this point, everyone. Remember this name. He plays a major role later. So Venator took Furman and 2 other detectives to Simpson's residence. This was an upscale neighborhood. The 4 found the large villa in the dark. The villa was surrounded by 6-foot-tall walls, but no matter how they rang the doorbell, there was no response. No one answered the phone either. At that moment, Furman began to look over. The Bronco parked in front of Simpson's house. He suddenly called out to the others, saying he'd found something. Above the driver's door handle, and above the door sill, he found 5 stains. These were likely bloodstains. The license plate showed the car belonged to Hertz Rent-A-Car, and Simpson had a deep partnership with the company. Everyone felt something was wrong. The 4 discussed it, and felt that finding someone to identify the blood and applying for a search warrant would take hours. That would take far too long. In case Simpson was in any danger inside the house, they would lose the critical window for rescue. Ultimately, they decided to enter the house first. Furman climbed over the wall and opened the outermost gate. The 4 began ringing the doorbell of the house inside. Still no response. When they reached the 3 guest rooms on the side, they finally saw a figure. After repeated knocking, a groggy Brian Kalin finally got up. Kalin was a tenant at Simpson's house. Facing police questioning, Kalin said he didn't know Simpson's whereabouts, and told police to ask Arnell in the guest room next door. Arnell was Simpson's daughter from his first marriage. She was also confused, and didn't know where her father was. However, she had the keys to the main house. After opening the door, they found Simpson wasn't home at all. She then called Simpson's personal secretary, Kathy Randa. Kathy told the police that Simpson had flown to Chicago overnight to attend an important meeting. The time reached 6:05 a.m. Detective Phillips called the hotel and reached Simpson, and informed him that his ex-wife, Nicole, had been murdered. Simpson appeared very agitated upon hearing this. He shouted, "Oh my God, Nicole has been killed? Oh my God, she's dead." Meanwhile, the questioning of the tenant Kalin continued. Kalin said, "Around 10:50 p.m. last night, while I was chatting with a friend on the phone, I suddenly heard several loud thumps on the bedroom wall behind me. Even the paintings on the wall shook. I thought it was an earthquake at the time." Furman quickly went behind the wall to check. He found a passage behind the wall covered in leaves. He walked about 6 meters and saw a leather glove on the ground. Coincidentally, it was for the right hand, with some sticky substance on it, likely bloodstains. Earlier, at Nicole's murder scene, an heiress left-hand glove had been found. To verify that the 2 gloves were the same pair, the detective specifically drove back to Nicole's house to confirm. At 6:21 a.m., Nicole's father seemed relatively calm upon hearing the news, but her sister Denise immediately screamed upon hearing it, shouting, "He did it! He finally did it!" The police asked who he was. Denise answered without hesitation, "Simpson." Once it was confirmed the 2 gloves were the same pair, Venator officially applied for a search warrant, deciding to conduct a thorough search of Simpson's house. It was nearly 1 p.m. on June 13th. Simpson finally arrived home. The police tried to keep the news quiet. However, the media was aggressive and the word spread. Streets leading to his house were packed. They were filled with photographers and reporters. Simpson had just walked through the front door. A detective named Thompson approached him. He led him to a secluded area in the yard. Then he placed him in handcuffs. Thompson was acting on orders from Venator. The order was to detain Simpson. He did not want the media to know, so he moved to a hidden corner of the yard. But even the best-laid plans can fail. A photographer named Ron Edwards was there. He had his camera perched atop the wall. He captured the entire moment on film. The footage of Simpson being handcuffed went public. America was in an uproar over his arrest. Usually, police have strong evidence for an arrest. This was a very public arrest. It led many people to reach a conclusion. They assumed the police had found evidence. They believed Simpson was Nicole's killer. In reality, the police lacked sufficient evidence. This caused many Americans to react. They saw the police's actions as unjust. This was viewed as an act of racism. Simpson's lawyer soon made a demand. This was his attorney, Howard Weitzman. The police then removed Simpson's handcuffs. He was taken to headquarters for questioning. Simpson. He agreed to be interviewed without a lawyer. Attorney Howard Weitzman agreed to the request. The session lasted for 32 minutes. Simpson answered many questions alone. The detectives noticed something important. There was a cut on Simpson's left finger. The police suspected the killer had a left-hand injury. Simpson struggled with this coincidence. His answers were very inconsistent. First, he said he cut it in Chicago. He claimed it happened after hearing of Nicole's death. Then, police found blood in his Bronco. He then claimed he cut it on June 12th. To prove his innocence, he made a move. He let the police take a blood sample. It was to be used for DNA testing. The questioning eventually came to an end. The police then released Simpson. This interview was a major turning point. Simpson had insisted on going in alone. The lawyer failed to insist on being present. This was clearly a massive oversight. It led to heavy criticism of Howard Weitzman. Consequently, he was soon off the case. It was June 14th. This was the third day after the crime. Simpson hired the famous Robert Shapiro. He began to build his own legal team. The team's lineup was nothing short of legendary. They were later known as the Dream Team. Members included the famous Robert Kardashian. Johnny Cochran was also on the team. So was pathologist Michael Baden, and Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz. The team included attorney F. Lee Bailey. DNA legal expert Barry Scheck also joined. Shapiro also extended an invitation. He invited Dr. Henry Lee from Connecticut. Dr. Lee was extremely busy at the time. He initially declined the offer to join, but Shapiro continued to invite him. Dr. Lee eventually set one condition. He would only speak based on the facts. He would report any evidence he found. He would speak the truth without hesitation. Shapiro agreed to the condition. Dr. Lee then officially joined the team. He immediately headed for Los Angeles. At the same time, the prosecution prepared. They were led by an experienced prosecutor. This was Marcia Clark. Her team included Bill Hodgman and others. They evaluated the evidence day and night. Because it involved Simpson, they were careful. They could not afford to make any mistakes. They needed overwhelming evidence. Only then could they arrest Simpson. Criminologist Colin Yamauchi ran DNA tests. The tests confirmed Nicole's murder. Blood at the scene matched Simpson's sample. A right-hand glove was found at Simpson's house. It had blood from Simpson and the victims. The prosecution felt the evidence was sufficient. It was now June 17th. The arrest warrant for Simpson was issued. He faced 2 counts of first-degree murder. It was 8:30 in the morning. LAPD notified Robert Shapiro. The lawyer gave him a clear warning. Simpson had to surrender that very day. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. Shapiro informed Simpson of the situation. Simpson agreed to turn himself in. Shapiro asked the police for a delay. He wanted to wait until noon. Simpson had already agreed to cooperate. As a celebrity, he could not just disappear. The LAPD agreed to Shapiro's request. However, things changed quickly. The LAPD made a public announcement. They confirmed the warrant for Simpson. They were prepared to go and arrest Mr. Simpson. The Los Angeles Police Department is searching. Right? They are actively searching for Mr. Simpson. The public and media gathered at the station. Over 1,000 people were reported there. They waited for a long time. Then came the news that Simpson had fled. That is exactly what happened. Simpson could not escape quietly, so he chose to flee in a very public way. Simpson had been extremely restless. He knew he was the primary suspect. He locked himself inside his house. There, he wrote 3 separate letters. He wrote one letter to his children. He wrote another to his mother. The last one was for the public. He then fled out the back with Al Cowlings. The police arrived to find him gone. They realized that Simpson had disappeared. This was a completely unexpected turn. The dream team was left staring in disbelief. Simpson's flight changed everything. The police issued a stern warning. They targeted the dream team lawyers. They threatened them with arrest for aiding him. Simpson was in the back of a white Bronco. Cowlings drove toward the California highway. The police were not going to let him go. They quickly tracked down Simpson's car. Dozens of police cars joined the chase. 6 helicopters circled in the sky. Media trucks followed close behind. The fugitive's flight was broadcast live. He was a major celebrity. Simpson's fame reached an all-time high. TV stations even interrupted the NBA Finals. They broadcast footage of Simpson's flight. Americans everywhere stopped to watch. They were glued to the highway chase. The streets of LA were reportedly empty. Everyone was watching the live coverage. Over 95 million Americans. They were all watching the live chase. The Super Bowl only had 90 million viewers. The U.S. population was 260 million. This means that a huge portion of the country watched. 1/3 of all Americans saw that broadcast. Many people went directly to the roadside. They were there to cheer for Simpson. Some even held up supportive banners. This live chase was a massive event. It caused a sensation across America. The entire world was watching the chase. It set the stage for the trial of the century. The ordeal finally ended at 8 p.m. Simpson had a gun and considered suicide. He claimed he was the only one who had been hurt. He said he just wanted to be with Nicole. Eventually, he decided to compromise. He asked the police to stop the pursuit. He promised them. He said he would return home on his own. It was 8 p.m. when he got back. Simpson finally arrived at his house. He sat in the car for about 45 minutes. He finally emerged clutching a family photo. He went inside and drank some orange juice. He spent some time talking to his mother. Attorney Robert Shapiro eventually arrived. Simpson then surrendered to the LAPD. Next came the famous legal battle. It was watched by millions of people. It became the legendary trial of the century.